Namaste, Dhanyawad. Welcome everyone for today's Hindu University of America webinar on Sri Aurobindo and Dharma. There's so many questions that we get into at Hindu University of America, but a lot of them are centered around the nature of humanity, the future of humanity, and what role does Sanatana Dharma, Hinduism, have in this future. And perhaps no one has spoken more eloquently on this subject than Sri Aurobindo, who's widely known as the Rishi of India's Renaissance. He also prophesized that the Renaissance of Sanatana Dharma was both necessary and inevitable. And at Hindu University of America, we are part of that Renaissance. We believe in that wholeheartedly. And it is this Sanatana Dharma that has kept Adhyatma, the spiritual wisdom, as its core foundation, insisting on truth, self-knowledge, and harmony as the evolutionary destiny of all humanity. So in this webinar, we're going to have Dr. Sampadananda Mishra revisit some principles, core teachings, shastras, practices in the light of Sri Aurobindo, his teachings, and so much other stuff that we will get into in today's webinar. As I introduce Dr. Mishra, if you haven't yet, please put in the chat where you are zooming in from, and I can give you a quick shout out as well. Amazing. Thank you for joining us. We have that little poll going as well. So Dr. Mishra has a PhD. He's spoken at various conferences, seminars, literary, religious festivals, nationally, internationally on Sanskrit, Indian culture, yoga, education. And he's actually currently, I think you still hold the position of Dean Culture and Director of at the Center for Human Sciences at Rishi University. You're still holding that position, right, Dr. Mishra? Yes, and we are glad to have Dr. Mishra teaching courses at Hindu University of America as well. He, of course, Dr. Mishra is a devotee of Sri Aurobindo and the mother. He's familiar with their writings. He's comfortable in delivering lectures on philosophy, teaching courses, and he's been to USA, around the world, teaching lectures, giving lectures, conducting workshops, participating in conferences and seminars. He was one of the keynote speakers in the WAVES conference that happened in Trinidad and Tobago in 2010. And Hindu University of America is going to be hosting the WAVES conference this year at our campus in Florida. Dr. Mishra, I don't know if you're going to be joining us for that, but I hope so. I think I did see your name. I'm glad that you're going to be there for there. That's in September. Please join us for that as we continue this mission on Sanatana Dharma, this renaissance, and today's webinar in the light of Sri Aurobindo. So Dr. Mishra, with that introduction, let me hand it to you to give us some background on Sri Aurobindo, Dharma, the connection, and what you're going to be teaching at Hindu University of America next quarter. Dr. Mishra, to you.
Thank you, Ankur, for giving this introduction. And thank you, Hindu University of America, for hosting this important topic. And thank you all the participants who have joined from various parts of the globe and showing your interest in Sri Aurobindo and Sanatana Dharma. So this is a course which Hindu University of America is hosting for last few years. And I've been teaching this to various groups. The whole purpose of this course is to introduce the teachings of Sri Aurobindo, his life and teachings, his works, especially focusing on the idea of Sanatana Dharma. So now, Sri Aurobindo, when we come in contact with his writings, so we find enormous amount of materials which Sri Aurobindo has written on Sanatana Dharma. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, something strange happening at my end, maybe. So, yes. So Sri Aurobindo, as we all know, he was a nationalist, he was a poet, he was a philosopher. He actually, in today's age, he doesn't need much introduction. So many people are familiar, and recently we celebrated his 150th birth anniversary, which is uh, just completed starting from 2022 August till uh, 23rd August. So his celebration was this celebration all over uh, the world was for this 2 3 years. Various programs which took place to take Sri Aurobindo teaching to every corner of the world. So born in 1872, and he took Mahasamadhi in 1950. So during this period, and he has very interesting childhood, he has a very interesting life. Although there are many biographies which are written on his life, but he himself has said that no one can write about his life because his life has never been on the surface of the world. So he came to give a message to the humanity. And what was that message? And what was the importance and relevance of that message? So the message he came to give to the humanity is that the humanity has to be delivered from all its limitations and has to be raised from its level, the present level, to a higher level. And he realized that supramental force, and then he brought it down and fixed it on the earth. So, this whole process of realizing the supramental consciousness and then fixing it on the earth, this work is not a work which has happened and then closed. The chapter is closed. It's a continuous, the work is continuous, as Sri Aurobindo and the mother, both of them said that, till the last person on the earth remains untransformed, their work will go on. Now, Sri Aurobindo, when we come in contact with his writings, especially on Dharma, especially on Bharat, uh, on Sanatana Dharma, we find that he prophesied that the renaissance of Sanatana Dharma is very, very essential to humanity for various reasons. And he also emphasized that Sanatana Dharma, uh, it is this eternal law of life. It is this dharma that maintains and that keeps adhyatma, or the spirituality, as its core foundation. And he insisted in the sense that Sri Aurobindo, while explaining about Sanatana Dharma, so he explained that it is this Dharma which insists only on the truth alone. So it seeks. So what does the Sanatana Dharma seeks? So Sri Aurobindo explains it. He has spoken about it. He has written about it in various places. When we come in contact with his works on essays on the Gita, foundations of Indian culture, synthesis of yoga, life divine, Savitri, his cultural writings, his various letters, his various other essays published in different uh, writings of his different volumes. So he says that it is this dharma which seeks peace, which seeks harmony, which seeks beauty, which seeks perfection, which seeks purity, which seeks self-knowledge, and which seeks oneness and unity, ekatva and um, samatva, equanimity, which seeks light and delight, the Ananda and Prakasha and Satya. These are the key terms of Sanatana Dharma. But it seeks all these things without rejecting any aspect of existence. Any aspect of existence. So Sanatana Dharma is all inclusive. So as Sri Aurobindo has seen it, that, and then he has also expressed his wish, and that's what he has written in his various essays, various books, in various contexts, that India must stand up to deliver Sanatana Dharma to the world and to the humanity. So he said, while, I mean, this is what I am reading out from one of the passages from his writing. So he says that other religions, what is the difference between Sanatana Dharma and other religions? So he says other religions are prepondering religious, preponderating religions of faith and profession. But the Sanatana Dharma is life itself. It is a thing that has not so much to be believed as lived. So, this is the Dharma that for the salvation of humanity was cherished in the seclusion of this peninsula from of old. So, and going further, he also says that the rise of India is meant to help humanity to understand the value of Sanatana Dharma. That is where he emphasized that she means like Sri Aurobindo is referring here to the Mother India, the Bharata Mata, Bhavani Bharati. So he says that she does not rise, India does not rise as other countries do for self. So India doesn't rise for itself. When she is strong to trample on the weak. Okay. So the other countries are rising just to overpower the rest of the world, the trample on the weak. So Sri Aurobindo says that India is rising to shed the eternal light entrusted to her over the world. India has always existed for humanity, not for herself. And it is for humanity and not for herself that she must be great. So her greatness, India's greatness, lies how she stands up for the entire humanity. And that is the work which Sri Aurobindo and the mother did. Their entire work, their entire effort, endeavor was to liberate the entire humanity. They spoke of this religion of humanity. So, like the ancient seers and sages, the Rishi tradition, which focused on Sarva Bhuta Hita. So that is where a Rishi was defined as Sarva Bhuta Hiterata, the one who had dedicated his life for the good of all. All means all, nothing was left out. Because Sanatana Dharma believed that Sanatana Dharma kept this as at the center, that there is this consciousness, the Chaitanya, at the core of everything. So nothing in this creation is devoid of Chaitanya, devoid of consciousness. So achaitanyam na vidyate. So this consciousness, which is there in the potential form, which is there in the hidden form, one has to become aware of it and manifest this potential and then make it a dynamic action. So convert it into a dynamic action or raise its level from the potential to the dynamic. But what is the Sanatana Dharma? So, what are the fundamental truths of this Sanatana Dharma? So, contemplate when we contemplate on this, the fundamental aspects of Sanatana Dharma, what we find is that, as I mentioned right in the beginning, that Sanatana Dharma gave importance to Sanatana Dharma gave importance to truth alone. Discussing or contemplating on what is the fundamental truth of this dharma. So what becomes obvious when we contemplate on the fundamental texts of Sanatana Dharma? So the first fundamental truth about Sanatana Dharma is that there is only one reality, which manifests in various forms. So this is a very well-known mantra from the Rig Veda, where Rishi Dirghatama, which says Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Vadante. So there is one truth, but which manifests, which takes different forms, which assumes different names, manifests differently. Ekam Sat, but that one reality. So which takes various forms, all forms. Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Vadante. So this is the first fundamental truth about Sanatana Dharma. It's like when it says that Ekam Sat, that one reality manifests as everything in this creation, that means like the same reality is present in everything and being. That is where when we come to the Ishavasya Upanishad, the very first mantra itself says Ishavasyam Idam Sarva. Everything that has manifest here, where God has made a little home for himself to live in its own creation, in every aspect of its own creation. So it is this dharma, and that is where we find elaborate explanation, commentatorial explanation. So what Sri Aurobindo has done in his Secret of the Veda, while interpreting the various Veda mantras, so he interprets Ekam Sad Vipra Bahuda Vadanti elaborately, and then explains what is this one reality, how it manifests, and what is the connection of that reality with all that exists in the world, all that has manifest in the world. So it is this dharma, again, like another fundamental truth of this Sanatana Dharma is that it is universal in nature. So it always speaks of, though it does not ignore the temporal, it also takes into its body the temporal aspect. But what it highlights, what it emphasizes, what it keeps at its core is the universal nature. It embraces all. Like the Yajurveda says, Yatra Vishwam Bhavati Ekanindam. So it is that, like one reality where the entire universe is just living in one nest. So it always, this is the Dharma which has always spoken of the unity. It has always spoken of the oneness. It has always spoken of the equanimity. It has always spoken of harmony. And it has always spoken of beauty and perfection and progress. So it is this Dharma whose sole aspiration, whose central aspiration was to triumph over the falsehood and limitations, to get victory over the falsehood, the victory over the ignorance, victory over all that, you know, uh, goes against the truth. So it always says, and Satyameva Jayate na Anrutam. It is the truth alone which is victorious. Na Anrutam. Anrutam refers to all that is limited, all that is narrow, all that is ignorant, all that is falsehood. So Satyameva Jayate na Anrutam. So it is this dharma again, like which aspires to awaken the spirit in matter. Annam Brahmeti. It announces that Annam Brahmeti, the matter itself is Brahman. And that Brahman, which is dormant in the matter, so needs to be awakened. So it is the spirit's awakening in the matter. So matter become conscious of the spirit which exists within itself. That is the message which gives. And when we read Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga, so his whole effort was to awaken that spirit in the matter. So the union of matter and the spirit. And again, we see that it is this dharma which not only speaks that Ishavashyam idam sarvam. So this entire universe, whatever has manifested in this creation, the God has made a little home for itself to live in it and to enjoy itself in its own creation. Not only this, the Upanishads declare or the Rishi tradition has realized, but it also says that divinity in everything is the one fundamental mantra which everyone has to grow conscious of. Divinity. This is the fundamental mantra of Sanatana Dharma, which says Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. And it accepts forms. It encourages to see the formless in the form. Sri Aurobindo very beautifully says that reject not form, because the formless lives in the form. So, Sanatana Dharma, it accepts all forms. It encourages to see the formless in the forms, as behind every form there lives the formless. Infinite is captured through the finite forms of finite representation. Rupam Rupam Pratirupa Bhavuva. So this is what we see in Upanishad, in the Veda. And again, we have this message of Sanatana Dharma which says all is one is all in one, and one in all. Atmani Sarva Bhutani Sarva Bhuteshu Chatma. So these are the beautiful messages of Sanatana Dharma. These are the core truths of Sanatana Dharma. And this is the true knowledge, the knowledge of unity. When one attains to this realization of all in one and one in all, one attains to that true unity. And this knowledge of unity is called in the tradition as Vidya. I am separate minus unity. It's avidya. And all that opposes the vidya is avidya. So only the unity of consciousness was called the vidya, but avidya was never to be neglected, because it is through the avidya one attains to one passes through the avidya, attains to the vidya, and through that attains to the amrutatva. Avidyaya mrutyum tirtva vidyaya amrutam mashnute. And we have beautiful interpretation of by Sri Aurobindo of the entire Isha Upanishad. So these are the ideas which one finds elaborated in the writings of Sri Aurobindo when he talks about the Sanatana Dharma and its future. But unfortunately, in the post-independent India, which had uh, a journey of progress that uh, deepened ranges of misunderstanding, misinterpretations of this Sanatana Dharma. It alienated people from their cultural roots in the name of progress. And we know that this progress was a kind of one size fit all model which was given to the entire world post Second World War. And it was even forced that every underdeveloped or undeveloped country must make a progress. But for that progress, one has to make compromise, and one has to make painful adjustments by forgetting one's own past, forgetting one's own cultural values. So that was the model which was thought of post Second World War, that this is the model which can help others make progress. So the entire economic development model which was given to the whole world, which was forced upon the rest part of the world. So every part of the world by the superpowers of that time, uh, and every nation, every country followed that. Our education system was designed in such a manner that we were alienated, we were cut off from our cultural roots. So we are now in the midst of a struggle which not only is perplexing but is also full of confusions and blind prejudices and passions. So consequently, an average Indian young mind, whether born and brought up in India or abroad, feels handicapped in the matters of Sanatana Dharma. So, as it has not yet discovered uh, the, the convincing aspect within itself to live or lead a life which is in consonance with the vision of Sanatana Dharma. So, what does the future hold then? What is the future of Sanatana Dharma? What is the future of humanity? What is the future of India? So, perhaps, so no one other than Sri Aurobindo who has spoken so eloquently or more eloquently on this subject than Sri Aurobindo. So, who himself is respected as a rishi of India's Renaissance. And it is in the writings of Sri Aurobindo that we see that Renaissance India is called upon to build up integral consciousness which can manifest the divine potential, which can manifest the divine potently and find original solutions in all fields of activity: scientific, philosophical, cultural, social, economic, political, and name any branch of knowledge or any aspect of life. So it is the Sanatana Dharma, Sri Aurobindo emphasized it throughout his life. And again, he emphasized that when India develops, the world will develop. Without India's development, without India's development, without India's rise, the humanity cannot rise, the world cannot rise. That was the prophecy that he made. So, in his the famous Uttarpara speech, so he revealed this and then said that this was what he received as an adesh, a commandment from the divine directly. And it is here that he made it clear in the Uttarpara speech that his life's mission was to work for the rise of Sanatana Dharma. That is the connection that one finds between Sri Aurobindo and the Sanatana Dharma, the deep connection, because he said that his life's mission was to work for the rise of Sanatana Dharma. Therefore, he gave a clarion call to the people of Bharat that they should rise for the Sanatana Dharma and not for themselves. Here is what Sri Aurobindo heard from the divine whispering. So, what he said, so let me read out this passage where in the Uttar speech what he mentioned. So he said, it is for the Sanatana Dharma that they arise. It is for the world and not for themselves that they rise. I am giving them freedom for the service of the world. When therefore it is said that India shall rise, it is the Sanatana Dharma that shall rise. When it is said that India shall be great, it is the Sanatana Dharma that shall be great. When it is said India shall expand and extend herself, it is the Sanatana Dharma that shall expand and extend itself over the world. It is for the Dharma and by the Dharma that India exists. These were the words of words which Sri Aurobindo himself says that were put into his mouth by the divine himself. And it is for the dharma and by the dharma that India exists. And this is the only nationalism that Sri Aurobindo taught. And he also mentioned that the protection of this dharma is the most important work before all of us who belong to this country, who belong to this land. But what is this dharma that has been there at the core of India that we must protect? What is the nature of this dharma? So, I have given you some of the passages from the Vedas and Upanishads explaining the fundamental truths of Sanatana Dharma. But Sri Aurobindo clarifies when he says, again, I am reading out a passage from Sri Aurobindo where he says, it is the universal religion which embraces all others. If a religion is not universal, it cannot be eternal. Mark every word of Sri Aurobindo, what he says. He says if a religion is not universal, it cannot be eternal. It cannot be Sanatana Dharma. This is where one finds the difference between the religion, so other religions, and then the Sanatana Dharma. So he says a narrow religion, a sectarian religion, an exclusive religion can live only for a limited time and a limited purpose. This is the one religion that can triumph over materialism by including and anticipating the discoveries of science and the speculations of philosophy. It is the one religion which impresses on mankind the closeness of God to us and embrace in its compass all the possible means by which man can approach God. It is the one religion which insists every moment on the truth which all religions acknowledge, and he is in all men and all things and are in him. In him we move and have our being. It is the one religion which enables us not only to understand and believe this truth, but to realize it with every part of our being. It is the one religion which shows the world what the world is. That it is the Leela of Vasudeva. It is the one religion which shows us how we can best play our part in that Leela, its subtlest laws and its noblest rules. It is the one religion which does not separate life in any smallest detail from religion, which knows what immortality is and has utterly removed from us the reality of death. Mrityorma amrutam gamaya. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Asato ma satgamaya. So this has been the rule of life that the Sanatana Dharma preaches, that we must rise from the state of asat to sat, tamas to jyoti, mrityu to amrutatva, and then the Sanatana Dharma, through its fundamental texts, it focuses, it also declares that it is the amrutatva which needs to be established in every part of the being. Because essentially, we all emerge from amrita live in Amrita and merge in Amrita. There is only Amrita or Ananda which exists. So Amrutatvam Icchan. How many times it is repeated in the Upanishads? Amritamashnute. One enjoys the Amrita. The processes, one works on going through the discipline. So how this immortality can be established, realized and established in life, every aspect of life. So we see that how beautifully Sri Aurobindo and how emphatically Sri Aurobindo has elaborated and said in the Uttarpara speech what is the nature of Sanatana Dharma. And he also emphasizes that Sanatana Dharma is India's only nationalism. He also cautioned that any negligence of this Dharma will lead to India's decline. Therefore, Sri Aurobindo says, I am reading out another passage where he says that when Sanatana Dharma declines, then the nation declines. And if the Sanatana Dharma were capable of perishing with the Sanatana Dharma, it would perish. The Sanatana Dharma, that is the true nationalism. And we see that as per our spiritual tradition, Sanatana Dharma is the very law of life that sustains and advances all life throughout the universe in a very systematic manner. And it is the unity of universal life that has been the teaching of Sanatana Dharma for ages. This is where the significance of Sanatana Dharma lies. The seers and sages of the Vedic age discovered that energy moves forward from the essence or remains contained in the essence in accordance with the will that is inherent in the essence. So this is a very important thing that we must learn when we must understand when we are talking about the core principles of Sanatana Dharma. So what was the realization of the ancient rishis is that the energy either moves forward from the essence or remains confined in the essence as per the will that is inherent in the essence itself. So the essence is free to exercise the will or to withhold the will. This is the philosophy that we learn from the Vedas and Upanishads. So when the will force is exercised, vibrations of energy emerge, the spanda. And these vibrations have rhythms, chandas. These rhythms have definite measures, the matras, regularities, and uniformities. And these measures and regularities came to be seen as expressions of the uh, regular law of cycles of life. The uh, Vedic rishis, they called them, called these expressions, these vibrations, expressions of the vibration, the eternal law of life, the Sanatana Dharma. And Veda contains the seed of all that needs to be done for understanding the essence of Sanatana Dharma. Therefore, it is said traditionally that Veda Akhila Dharma Moolam, that it is the moola, the seed, the root of all that goes in the name of Dharma. So therefore, Sri Aurobindo sought after the Veda and he declared that it is the foundation of Sanatana Dharma. And he also, like the another beautiful phrase he has used for the Veda, he says it is the concealed divinity within Hinduism. It is the concealed divinity within the Hinduism. And there is again a very beautiful passage that when we are discussing about Sanatana Dharma, or when we are discussing about Veda in the light of Sri Aurobindo, we should not miss this passage. Again, I'm reading it out, where Sri Aurobindo says, I seek a light that shall be new, yet old, the oldest indeed of all lights. I seek an authority that accepting, illuminating, and reconciling all human truth shall yet reject and get rid of by explaining it all mere human error. I seek a text and a Shastra that is not subject to interpolation, modification, and replacement, that moth and white ant cannot destroy, that the earth cannot bury it, nor time mutilate. I seek an asceticism that shall give me purity and deliverance from self and from ignorance, without stupefying God and his universe. I seek a skepticism that shall question everything, but shall have the patience to deny nothing that may possibly be true. I seek a rationalism, not proceeding on the untenable supposition that all the centuries of man's history, except the 19th, were centuries of folly and superstition, but bent on discovering the truth instead of limiting inquiry by a new dogmatism, obscurantism, and furious intolerance, which it chooses to call common sense and enlightenment. He continues saying that I seek a materialism that shall recognize matter and use it without being its slave. I seek an occultism that shall bring out all its processes and proofs into the light of day without mystery, without jugglery, without the old stupid call to humanity. Be blind, O man, and see. In short, Sri Aurobindo summarizes this whole complicated passage, yet of clear message. So he says, I seek not science, I not religion, not theosophy, but Veda. What is that Veda? The truth about Brahman. Not only about his essentiality, but about his manifestation. Sri Aurobindo continues saying that not a lamp on the way to the forest, but a light and a guide to joy and action in the world. It is not something by the knowledge of the Veda or knowledge of Vedanta that one has to retire to the forest and live an ascetic life. But he says that not a lamp on the way to the forest, but a light and a guide to joy and action in the world. The truth which is beyond opinion, the knowledge which all thought strives after. Yasmin vijnate, sarvam vijnata, knowing which everything else is known. And Sri Aurobindo says, I believe that Veda, I believe that Veda to be the foundation of Sanatana Dharma. I believe it to be the concealed divinity within Hinduism. But a veil has to be drawn aside. A curtain has to be lifted. I believe it to be knowable and discoverable. That is where he wrote The Secret of the Veda, bringing out the secret. I believe, he says, I believe the future of India and the world to depend on its discovery and on its application, not to the renunciation of life, but to life in the world and among men. What a beautiful and brilliant passage where Sri Aurobindo puts it so clearly, the fundamental truth of Sanatana Dharma and what needs to be done, and the foundation of Sanatana Dharma, the Veda as the foundation of Sanatana Dharma, and the secret of that Veda needs to be discovered. That veil has to be removed, that curtain has to be removed, that secret has to be revealed, and for the sake of the humanity. So then the humanity can find its own life's ultimate purpose and live happily in this world by participating in every aspect of life. This single passage, you see, how Sri Aurobindo has enumerated so well the idea of Sanatana Dharma. And the Sanatana Dharma, it aspired to live the ideal of perfection for the development of the mind and soul of man, and create more of the self-perfecting individuals who can lead humanity towards the ultimate goal of life. Now, you see, when we talk about Sanatana Dharma and its core values, so Sri Aurobindo again, you read it in a very uh, clear language, step by step, he explains when we are talking about perfection, progress, harmony, peace as the core values. So, how these core values were lived by the Sreshthas, by the Aryas, by the noble ones, and how they realized in every aspect of their being. And when we are the followers of Sanatana Dharma, we belong to the land, with the land of Sanatana Dharma. We need to live the fundamental truths of Sanatana Dharma, what we need and how we manifest those dharmic, the core values of Sanatana Dharma in every aspect of our being. So this is where again another beautiful passage which with which I will end the deliberation today. It's a long passage, but it needs to be understood properly. So then we have a clear idea about what Sri Aurobindo meant by Sanatana Dharma and its practical aspect. So Sri Aurobindo says, I am reading out again another long passage where he says the universal embracing Dharma in the Indian idea is a law of ideal perfection for the developing mind and the soul of man. It compels him to grow in the power and force of ideal universal qualities, which in their harmony build a highest type of manhood. In India, in Indian thought and life, this was the ideal of the best, the law of the good or noble man, the discipline laid down for the self-perfecting individual who was called Arya, Sreshta, Sajjana, Sadhu. This ideal was not a purely moral or ethical conception, although that element might predominate. It was also intellectual, religious, social, aesthetic, the flowering of the whole ideal man, the perfection of the total human nature, and the most varied qualities met an Indian conception of the best of the Sreshta, the good and the noble man Aryan. So, what qualities it manifested? So, look at how Sri Aurobindo explains in how in different parts of our being the different qualities are to be manifest if we need to live Sanatana Dharma. So he says, in the heart, in the Hridaya, one has to manifest benevolence, beneficence, love, compassion, altruism, long suffering, liberality, kindliness, patience. This in the heart. In the character, courage, heroism, energy, loyalty, continence, truth, honor, justice, faith, obedience, and reverence, where these were due to which these were due, but power too to govern and direct of fine modesty and yet strong independence and noble pride. So, in the heart, in the character, and what needs to be developed in the mind? So, Sri Aurobindo says, in the mind, wisdom and intelligence and love of learning, knowledge of all the best thought, an openness to poetry, art, beauty, an educated capacity, and skill in works. Then, what is to be developed in the inner being? In the inner being, Sri Aurobindo says, a strong religious sense, pity, love of God, seeking after the highest, the spiritual turn in social relation and conduct, what needs to be developed? So, in social relation and conduct, a strict observance of all the social dharmas as father, son, husband, brother, kinsman, friend, ruler or subject, master or servant, priest or warrior or worker, king or sage, member of clan or caste. This was the total ideal of Arya, the man of high upbringing and noble nature. So we find in his heart, in his character, in his mind, in his social relationship, in his inner being, all these beautiful aspects. So the ideal is clearly portrayed in the written records of the ancient India during the last 2 millenniums and is the very life breath of Hindu ethics. It was the creation of an at once ideal and rational mind, spirit wise, world wise, deeply religious, nobly ethical, firmly yet flexibly intellectual, scientific and aesthetic, patient and tolerant of life's difficulties and human weakness, but arduous in self discipline. This was the mind that was at the base of Indian civilization and gave its characteristic stamp to all culture. And that is the reason that why. So when all other civilizations, they lost their presence, their values, their core values, and just the name remained. And then whoever lived in those geographical locations couldn't live those cultural civilizational core values. So it is here in this land that there has been a continuity for time immemorial. We're living these cultural values, the civilizational values. So India has a living presence, uninterrupted living presence of these values. That is why this civilization is respected as the greatest civilization, the only oldest living civilization. So humanity, therefore, uh, drawing inspiration from the Sanatana Dharma. So the message to the entire humanity is that it must evolve morally, psychologically, and spiritually in order to realize its own inner spiritual fraternity, in order to achieve the ultimate millennium envisioned both in religious and secular thought. This ideal of inner fraternity can only be achieved by bringing together secular and religious aspirations of humanity and giving them a unified direction towards one goal. And this was the message of Sri Aurobindo with regard to Sanatana Dharma to the entire humanity. So, friends, the teachings, the writings of Sri Aurobindo, various writings of Sri Aurobindo connected with this Sanatana Dharma, connected with India's civilization, its cultural values, its cultural literary heritage. So he has spoken elaborately on its polity, on its literature, on its culture, on its language, and on the spirituality, on every aspect of Sanatana Dharma throughout his writings, which gives a clear idea about and a practical idea about like what is the essential truth of Sanatana Dharma, and then what it means to be a follower of Sanatana Dharma, what discipline one has to follow in life to carry forward those values, lives after lives. So this is what we learn from Sri Aurobindo, and Sri Aurobindo's teachings are the true spirit of Dharma and the true spirit of like how the values of Sanatana Dharma has to be lived in every aspect. So this is what I wanted to share with regard to the subject given to me for addressing. Thank you for your patient listening. If there are questions, I will address to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra. That was amazing. As Avinash put in the chat, nice presentation of Sri Aurobindo's worldview. Lots of positive comments in the chat. Thank you for engaging. I had a little poll up the webinar attendance. I'll share that real quick so you can see. We had almost 80 people with us at peak, a lot of regulars, people who are enrolled in programs, people who are taking courses. Almost 30 people considering courses, and even those 11 people who are not taking courses. I hope you enjoyed this webinar and this presentation from Dr. Mishra. I'm going to put in the chat a link to the course details. It's going to be Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern starting July 19th. So let me start with Guru Prakashji from, where are you from? Alabama, right? Dothan, Alabama. He's just asking for some background on the course details. Is it going to be, so just broadly, Hindu University of America, we have a learning management system week by week. All the readings, the Zoom links, assignments will be properly managed in our online learning management system. We have Moodle. So all of that will be utilized by Dr. Mishra on a week-by-week basis. But Dr. Mishra, if you can talk about the format of the course, what's expected of students, the time commitment, a little just background on the course itself, those logistical details.
Here, the course will be focusing on various aspects of Sanatana Dharma. We will be giving an introduction to Sri Aurobindo's life and works to start with, fundamentals of Sanatana Dharma, and the history of the Renaissance, the rise of Sanatana Dharma, and various other important concepts like the concept of avatarhood, the concept of rebirth, the concept of Purushartha, the Ashrama Chatushtaya, Purushartha Chatushtaya. So, and other aspects of Sanatana Dharma, and what is the core message of Sanatana Dharma to the whole humanity. So these are the most important topics which will be covered in this course. So it's going to happen weekly once, and most probably on a weekend. So every session will be 2 hours, and there will be 10 sessions, so around 20 hours of um, 10-11 sessions, so 22 hours of deliberations which are going to happen in this course. And so during the course, various assignments will be given to the participants, in the sense that they have to summarize the classes and send the class summary uh, uh, to me for evaluation. So this is how the course is going to happen.
Great. So I launched a quick poll. If you're interested in enrolling in this course, just let us know. Yes, no, maybe. Anantaji says, worth every minute. Yes, that was very interesting and engaging. I love your presentation, Dr. Mishra, and how you articulate the broader context of the Sanatana Dharma and its application. And I know in the course, you're going to get much deeper in detail. So please fill out that poll. Let us know if you're interested in taking this course or not. Let's see what questions we have in the Q&A box. Vijay Kane from Houston says, in 79 and 80, he had a chance to spend part of summer in Sri Aurobindo Ashram in Pondicherry. It was a beautiful experience. Dr. Mishra, maybe you want to talk about some of your experience engaging with the different history of Sri Aurobindo, where he was, how you really followed and tracked and studied and learned his life from that aspect, and your experience in some of those ways.
Yeah, see, as students in the universities and colleges, we were introduced to Sri Aurobindo very little about his, like yoga, spirituality, what he has spoken, but as a nationalist and what role he's played. Very briefly, we were introduced to his life and work. But during my higher course in Pondicherry, so I came in contact with his writings. I started reading his writings and then decided to live in Pondicherry. So for last 30 years, I've been living in Pondicherry and reading Sri Aurobindo, every work of his. Though I am not very proficient with regard to Savitri and Life Divine, the two most important, contributions of Sri Aurobindo. So, though I have, like gone through it, that, but I'm not an very expert of that. But rest of his works, like he says on the Gita, Secret of the Veda, Upanishads, his work on foundations of Indian culture, ideal of human unity, future poetry. So these are my, my focus was on these works which I have always enjoyed, because my interest, I have been a student of Sanskrit and Indian culture, Indian knowledge system for a long. So these are the works which attracted me to Sri Aurobindo. And Sri Aurobindo's like works have added more clarity to the understanding of the Veda, Upanishads, Sanskrit, Kalidas, Bhartrihari. So all that we studied during like our courses in throughout the academic career, and afterwards also, like whatever we are pursuing with regard to Indian knowledge system. So Sri Aurobindo adds more clarity to it. So adds more beauty to it. So his explanation of Kalidas, his explanation of Bhartrihari, his explanation of the Veda, Upanishad, Gita. So they add more values. And at the same time, what I feel, that because I have a background of Sanskrit and the Veda and Upanishad and the Gita, so it becomes easy to understand Sri Aurobindo. And because I also like have gone through the writings of Sri Aurobindo after going through, so whatever is there in the Veda, Upanishad and the Gita, in Bhartrihari, in Kalidas, in Panini and many others, also we find many new insights, and uh, the explanation of those in the light of Sri Aurobindo becomes very fresh and very amazing and then practical. So then we can implement those Vedic Vedantic truths in life. So that has been my experience.
Yeah. And as you were getting into it, Sri Aurobindo, he was prolific. He wrote so much on so many and just manuscripts and volumes of writing. Definitely one of the reasons why he's well known now. But AK Subramanianji is asking, are these passages expanded in the course? Which book contains these passages? How do you filter through all of this? And just make a mention of how prolific he was, because I think it's important to note. And I didn't know until that first webinar that we did, and I looked it up, and it's just amazing how much he wrote, his commentary, and how insightful he was on so many different itihasa scriptures, just adding value and modernizing and explaining it in a way that that you're doing now also to the next generation, taking it and spreading it.
Mm.
So in that context, talk about his prolificness, which you mentioned which ones you're going to talk about in the course, and then you're going to upload some of these onto the LMS, and people will have access to these readings as well, correct?
Yeah, so like during the course, we will be providing the course materials and all the different passages that we will be, like today, which I have quoted, and during the course, which will be quoted from Sri Aurobindo with reference, those are given to the learners. And mostly today, what I quoted, they were from the Uttarpara speech, uh, those long passages. Uh, which I quoted during the course, mostly from Uttar Pradesh speech.
Great, great. Okay. Can you look at Pavanji's question in the Q&A? It's a paragraph. It's kind of deep, and I don't want to read it out loud because there's a lot there. Can you see it, Dr. Mishra?
Yeah,
Or I
where
can
he says
ask
that the
Pavan.
definition of ekatva and oneness you provided wasn't in a way critical, was criticized by Sri Aurobindo in his Life Divine and Upanishad. He was a critic of Mayavada of Sankara and said that the universe cannot be unreal. If it were to be real, and so is Brahman, isn't that more in line with existence of multiple realities, dependent, independent, and in Tattvavada terms? So I do not understand what exactly is the question. Uh, where did I provide which was criticized by Sri Aurobindo? See, ultimately, what ekatva and samatva, the oneness, ekatva and samatva, the uh, equanimity, these were the core value and the core aspect which one needs to realize in life, the unity of consciousness. So, which is the truth, which is the true vidya. And through that, attaining to the unity of consciousness, one attains to the Amritatva. So, where everything is included in that ekatva. So, from the state of, by being in that state of ekatva, by being in that state of samatva, one has to operate in the world and one has to continue with the action from that state of unity of consciousness. And Shankaracharya's Mayavada is a different aspect, which very true. It was highly criticized by Sri Aurobindo, and in his Life Divine and the Ishopanishad commentary.
Okay. So how can people get in contact with you? What is the best way? Nina Gat is asking if you would share an email or your HOA email or your personal email. I can put it in the
Yeah,
chat.
my email can be shared with the participants. So
Okay.
anyone wants to be in touch can.
Your HOA email or your personal email? Which
Um, I mean, anything can be given.
All right,
No
I'll put
issue.
your HOA email in the chat if you have specific questions. But please reach out to me if you have technical issues or enrollment stuff. We can get you set up. One more time, a link to the course and the details, putting it in the chat. We are coming to the close of our webinar. Justin Jedraszewski is asking, and this is a hard question because he's so prolific, right, Sri Aurobindo? What one text or writings of Sri Aurobindo would you consider the most relevant for Sanatana Dharma study? And maybe there's two, what's most relevant and maybe what's a good introductory piece? And how did you go about choosing what you're going to
Yeah,
cover in the course?
you read the entire Uttarpara speech, so that will give fairly a good idea about Sanatana Dharma. And then you can take up essays on the Gita.
What was that speech's name again?
Uttarpara speech. Uttarpara speech.
See, I see this. I'll put it in the chat for other folks like me who needed to hear that again.
Acha, okay. So let me
Okay. I'll put it in the
find it.
chat. I got it. All right. So if there aren't too many more questions, Dr. Mishra ji, maybe some closing thoughts. Let me make my pitch. Please enroll, be a part of this renaissance of Sanatana Dharma at Hindu University of America. Dr. Mishra is getting into the rishi of India's and of the Renaissance, of Hindu Renaissance. And so this is a great opportunity. It's part of the certificate program in Hindu studies at HUA. So developing that clarity and confidence, right? There's so much in Sanatana Dharma from so many gurus, so many rishis, so many acharyas who have shared this knowledge. And this course in particular with Dr. Mishra on Sri Aurobindo and Dharma is just a great course for you to round out your understanding of Hinduism and experience Hindu University of America. Please do consider enrolling in this course. That's my last pitch. Dr. Mishra, to you for closing thoughts, comments, however you'd like to end it.
Yeah, as a closing comment, I would say that if anyone is interested, can join the course. So whether you join the course or not, but live up to the core of Sanatana Dharma, and then keep reading a little bit of Sri Aurobindo and manifest certain qualities of the values of Sanatana Dharma in life. So then life becomes yatharth, life becomes really beautiful. So that's what I would say. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Dhanyavad, namaste. See you on the next webinar or in a course, hopefully at Hindu University of America. Thank you all for participating. Dhanyavad. Namaste.
Namaste.